when it comes to buying a new bike, just because it's new, whether it's new to you or it's brand new, doesn't mean that it's ready to ride. Welcome back to MiniTip Monday. One of the things that always surprises me when we get new bikes here at the magazine to test is that they're very rarely in a condition where they're ready to ride. There's always something when you go out and you test them that you find that isn't quite how it should be. It's not set for the factory. So today we're going to break down the most common things that I see that need correcting. And even though they're quite small things, they can make a really big difference to how your bike feels to ride and mean that you're not getting the best experience from your bike. The first thing I always check when it comes to a new bike is the tire pressures. It's amazing how much difference the tire pressures make to the handling of your bike. 10 PSI in the front or the rear tire in the wrong direction completely destroys the handling. And it's quite incredible how often tires are fitted, blown up to a high temperature, and then not let back down, or vice versa. They've just been sat in a showroom for a little while. The pressure's not where it should be. And so checking your tire pressures, making sure they're at the factory recommended settings makes a massive difference to your first experience riding that bike. Anyone who knows me well knows what this next one's going to be because I talk about it a lot, but I think suspension settings make an enormous difference to how a bike handles, and they are almost never exactly perfectly right when they come from the showroom. There'll always be something, someone's turned a clicker, someone's changed the preload, or the fork height's not set right. So those things I think need to be checked before you do any serious riding on your bike. Now, if you're riding something like this GS behind me, that's got electronic suspension. It sets the sag or the preload on both shocks for you, which is amazing. So just go through the menus, check that the settings are all correct. And if you're riding something with more conventional suspension, traditional forks, non-electronic, make sure all the clicker settings are right. Make sure the height of the forks through the triple clamps are the same, and check the rear shock sag. The static sag of the rear shock, so that's the difference between the bike when it's on the center stand with no weight on the shock versus the bike under its own weight, should roughly be 30% of the total travel. So you can do some quick maths there and figure that out for yourself. We've got this KTM 1219 for testing at the moment, and this is a really good example. This goes through the workshop. The KTM mechanics are really good. They know what they're doing, but things get missed sometimes. And all of the clickers were uneven. So the fork was set on the sport setting on the clickers. The shock was on the standard setting. We've got the forks at ever so slightly different heights, and the shock preload was set to max. It's going to give you a really different ride to if you have all those things set in the same position. So all the settings are set to sport, or all the settings are set to standard, the preload is in the correct place, and so on. So I'm going to do that now, and then I'm going to check it with a tape measure as well. The next thing that I have on my list of things to check are the controls. Pretty much every adventure bike comes with the handlebars set in a road orientated position. This GS is no exception. It even has markings on the handlebars to tell you what the different positions are. So unless you're riding a KTM or a Yamaha, the handlebars are probably too rolled back and not in the right position. And you'll find the same thing with the levers and the mirrors. So get some tools out, sit on your bike to do this, because your weight changes the suspension, which changes the position of the handlebars, and set the handlebars to the correct height. If you want to know what that should roughly be, we made a mini tip Monday about that years ago, so I'll pop that up in the corner so you can check it out. The next one is one of those small details that should be right from the factory. It should be right from the dealership, but like with a lot of bike prep, it's done by humans, and we're all human and we all make mistakes, and things are variable. Bikes are different, oil volumes are different, and the amount of times that I've seen the wrong oil level in a bike and then that cause a problem is more than it should be. So always check your oil level before you take it out. It's a 30-second job, and if you've got too much in there, you can just drain a little bit out by cracking the drain bolt. If you need a little bit more in there, well, aren't you glad you found it now? like with your oil, these things should be right from the factory. They should be right from your dealership, but do a nut and bolt check. Check all the basic things that you need to keep your bike running. Are your brake calipers done up? Are your fork bolts done up? Are your handlebars and your levers done up? Is your rear wheel gonna fall out? Is your chain at the correct tension? It should be, but sometimes someone forgets to do something up when they change something, when they PDI it, and it's just not worth finding out the hard way. Whether it's a second-hand bike or a new bike, these things do happen. So get your tools out, spend 5 minutes just to check it over, and probably make that a habit for every time you wash your bike or you do a little service on it, to just nut and bolt check it. It'll stop you being that person whose bike falls apart in the middle of nowhere. So yeah, that's it. This mini tip Monday is really simple. Those are the things that I've seen most commonly and the process that I go through when we've got test bikes to get them ready for us to go and ride. It's not an expansive list, it's not a difficult thing, but you'll be surprised how often something comes up that shouldn't have come up. If you've got anything else that you think should be on this list, or any crazy stories of things you found when you've bought a new bike or you've bought a secondhand bike that really shouldn't have been as they came to you, I'd love to hear them. Pop them down in the comments below. And if you want to support Brake Magazine and any of the videos we're making, that would be fantastic. We've got a link to our web shop down below where we're selling some great kit, some t-shirts with nice designs on the back of them. And otherwise, remember, life's better when you're riding.